Hey everyone, Dr. Alex Ritza here, Cycling Doc. Thanks for tuning in. And in today's video, we're going to talk about some of the less good adaptations for your body that come from cycling that make you a worse human being. And I don't mean a bad person, I mean that make your body less able to do things off of the bike. Whether it's going to be eventually picking up grandkids, going for a hike, lifting weights, moving, canoeing, stuff like that. Stuff that comes as a negative adaptation that will not help you off the bike, but does help you get faster on the bike. So we're going to talk about some of these things. We're going to talk about some of the rehab and some of the precautions you should take to make sure that they do not limit you off the bike. Lord knows there's a million different things that come from cycling that are amazing and good for your body and good for your health. But I want to focus on this video and make sure that you guys know what you should pay attention to in terms of stretching, rehab, and exercises. And before we get into it, if you like this content and you want to see more of it, please hit the subscribe button and the old thumbs up. And if you don't like it, let me know what I can do better. Let's do it. So, your body, very, very smart, a brilliant, brilliant thing that's developed over millions and millions and millions of years. And when you throw a stress at it, your body adapts. It gets stronger, it gets better, it gets more adapted at doing that stress or being better at it. So when it comes to cycling, your aerobic system gets stronger, your muscles get stronger, your blood gets better at delivering oxygen, and this has innumerable benefits on your health and your well-being, including your mental health. And we all know the side benefit of cycling is typically a better social network and a happier person, for the most part, except for when you're suffering. But some of the negative adaptations from spending hours and hours hunched over the bike, we're going to deal with, and there are about 5 of them. So the most important one to me as a chiropractor, and the one that I want to make sure everyone knows about, is the structure of the spine, or that shape of the spine, especially the neck. So similar to spending lots of time on a phone, or similar to spending lots of time sitting, if we're constantly hunched forward on that bike, our spine can slowly adopt more of that anterior spinal shift or shifted position. And we see that in a lot of the cyclists that we take care of in our office, in the same way that we see it in a lot of office workers and those that are both cyclists and office workers. I think that that's probably going to be even more reason to pay attention to this. And this is an example of the body is going to adopt that position it is in the most, and it will slowly shift forward from a combination of problems in the spine, over tightening, over development of some muscles on the front that pull us forward, and weakness in some of the muscles in the spine. So if you look at some of the links below, I'll have some exercises that you can do that will help to maintain your spine health, to help to prevent that anterior spinal shift as much as possible. And it's going to guide some of the content that comes out of this channel. The reason why I think this is super, super, super important is that anterior spinal shift, it doesn't necessarily lead to pain. It can, but there are a bunch of functional changes that come with it. Your neck doesn't work as well. The muscles of the neck and the muscles of the shoulder, they don't function as well, and often we see shoulder problems, shoulder pain, and the shoulder range of motion is either limited or the shoulder itself becomes weak. There's also evidence that with that shift forward in the spine, it changes how the lungs work. It causes us to breathe more with our chest, less with our diaphragm, and it actually minimizes or reduces the amount of lung capacity that we have. And there are studies showing that if you do some lung function tests, those who have a shifted forward spine, they don't perform as well. Now, there's no evidence that I'm aware of in the research linking this in cyclists. But if it were me, somebody who cares about my FTP and cares about my performance, I probably wouldn't want this limiting, so definitely something to pay attention to. As we move down the body, the next thing we're going to talk about is something that a lot of cyclists and a lot of people that sit at a desk don't know about, and that's the muscles here in the armpit or the axilla, specifically the Latissimus Dorsi muscle. That's the big swimmer's muscle that you see on Michael Phelps and all the other swimmers that make them look like a V. And with cyclists, we often notice that this is really, really shortened and tight. In our office, where we do a test where we check their passive range of motion, where I move them, or they try to move their arm up and try and get it parallel to the body, nice and straight. They often can't get it back here, they're limited here, or they have to extend their spine. And that limited range of shoulder motion, that is definitely going to affect us with anything overhead. It might make us more prone to shoulder injuries. And that tightening of the axillary muscles or the armpit and the latissimus dorsi, that's actually going to promote more of that hunching forward. Even though the lat or latissimus dorsi is a back muscle, it actually flexes the spine forward because of its attachment from the front of the arm to the lumbar and thoracic spine. And so stretching that latissimus dorsi and the muscles of the armpit, we'll include some below. Really, really important for cyclists to make sure that it doesn't promote that forward shifted position. It's also really important that it's not going to compromise your shoulder health and promote shoulder injuries or rotator cuff injuries. Like anything else, it's not a guarantee, but if we're playing the lottery in the odds game, this is something you're going to want to focus on. Now, this muscle, it's tough to get a good bike fit position that's not going to put stress on it, because that's the nature of cycling. Where we're hunched over, that latissimus dorsi allows for power transfer along with the core muscles between the hands and between the legs. So especially with sprinting, especially with climbing, especially with hard efforts where you're using a lot of the arms, that muscle is going to be really active, and that muscle is going to get tight and short over time. Next, we're going to talk about what everyone talks about, the core, and we're also going to talk about the glutes. So most cyclists that I encounter actually have fairly good core strength when it comes to activating the muscles. Most people that are active, most people that are athletic, the core they can turn on quite well. The one thing that I worry about is, because cycling is a non-weight bearing activity, I worry that their core strength or core activation might not be sufficient for performing activities when people are weight bearing. So this is more of a preventative thing. I don't have any evidence to back this up, and it's not actually something I see too often in the office, but having a regular core strength plan where 1 or 2 times a week at minimum, you're doing some core activation exercises, using your body weight or using some resistance, is going to be super, super important to help maintain the health of our spine, both on and off the bike, so that we can perform at our best. And the part B to this, which I think is very, very important, this is a problem that I see with lots of cyclists in the office, and that is glute strength and glute activation. Now, the glutes are going to be part of the core. Basically, anything between the genitals and the base of the lungs is the core, or the trunk. And so because the glutes are not activated that much with cycling, especially with some people if they don't have a good bike fit, and especially because when they're activated, it's not with an eccentric contraction or weight bearing, making sure that the glutes are strong, super, super, super important. The glutes typically get really weak in cyclists in that side to side direction. So that's the gluteus minimus and the gluteus medius, and those muscles are really important for the tracking of the knee to make sure that it does not collapse in, which could be a contributor to knee pain on the bike and could be a contributor to knee pain off of the bike with things like walking, running, or other activities like squatting when you're weight bearing. So making sure that part of your regular plan that you are doing some squatting, you are doing some lateral movements like, say, a standing fire hydrant or a clamshell, something that's going to be activating, strengthening, challenging those glute muscles, especially the gluteus minimus and medius on the side. Very, very important. And these are also going to be really important if you are a low back pain sufferer, because those glute muscles, like a corset, they hold everything together. And if they are weak, you can think of the core and the spine as moving around like a bag of bones with not enough protection, which could lead to a problem. And last but not least is more of a big picture thing that's around longevity and making sure that we're able to function and kick butt off the bike for all the days that we live. And that is going to be around general body strength and bone mineral density, or how strong your bones are. So we know that weightlifting, we know that strength, the things that promote good overall strength and good bone density are really, really important for longevity and really, really important for preventing things like falls when we're older and to keep us really active. Something like grip strength has been shown that it's really important for promoting longevity and decreasing morbidity in falls, because if you have a slight little shift and you need to grab onto something, grip strength is really important to help make sure that you can stay upright. So somebody like a Tour de France rider, they should probably be doing some strengthening, but obviously they're going to want to have as little muscle mass to carry around as possible. But you and I, not Tour de France riders, we should have a regular strength training program that keeps us strong overall throughout the body, and also is going to put lots of impact through the feet, through our bones, because only with that impact, only with weight bearing, is that going to promote good bone mineral density, is that going to cause the bones to get stronger. Again, the body's really good at adapting. If you're up in space where there's no gravity, the bones get really weak. If you're on a bicycle where there's gravity but you don't have any weight bearing, the bones get kind of weak. And then that's why we need to spend at least some time doing some jumping, some walking, or some squatting where we're bearing weight on our spine, on our hips, on our legs, so that the bones will maintain and have that good bone mineral density, so that we're not at risk of fractures and falls when we're older, and so that we can continue to do things off the bike that we love, as well as be stronger, more fit, and more resistant to injuries if we fall on the bike. So everyone, I hope that was helpful. Those are some of the 5 things that I would think about for exercises and for my rehab and stretching plans off of the bike. I'm going to include links below that's going to direct you to some different exercises and plans, and we're going to have more content coming on the channel as the weeks and months progress that will deal with some of these issues. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, please leave them below. I'll be happy to try and answer them. And until then, I hope your riding's going well, ride strong, have fun, and I'll see you out there.